working lately, so it must just be the temperature instead of
So,
very nice reading.
79, is that internal or?
That's a do Wednesday.
It's internal,
Let's do Wednesday.
it's just up there,
What's that?
that when it flashes, it's in there.
What do you do?
Let's see. Test. Oh, gee. Worked for you. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Advanced Plans meeting of Thursday, May 8th, 2025. We do have a bit of a full agenda, so we'll go ahead and get going on that. May we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Nix?
Here.
Commissioner Warren?
Here.
Commissioner Fry? Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Miles?
Present.
Chair Aldrich, you have a quorum.
You're not going to do McKay?
Commissioner McKay? Here.
So anyway, thank you. We do have a quorum. And the first item on our agenda is going to be the approval of the summary of the minutes for April the 10th.
So moved.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Be 6-0, right? Or 5-0. Next agenda item is we're going to hear about the Metropolitan Planning Plan for going to 2050. We do have a guest speaker, Marky Jonas. Is that correct?
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
Good
My
morning.
name is Marky Jonas, and I'm here to talk about the Wichita Area Metropolitan Planning Organization and our long-range metropolitan transportation plan.
Marky, there is no little clicker up there. If you can just say next slide
Okay.
and someone in the back will help you.
I can do that. Thank you. Okay, and then we can actually go to the next slide. Perfect. So WAMPO, or the Wichita Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, is the metropolitan planning organization for this region. Metropolitan planning organizations are federally required regional policy bodies in urbanized areas with a population over 50,000. And they provide local governments and communities more input in the use of federal funding at the local level. So WAMPO is responsible for carrying out the metropolitan transportation planning process in 22 cities and 3 counties. That includes all of Sedgwick County and then portions of Butler and Sumner counties. We conduct both long-range and short-range transportation planning for all modes of transportation. Next slide. A Metropolitan Transportation Plan, or MTP, is an MPO's long-range plan. MTPs are federally required long-range planning documents with a planning horizon of at least 20 years, with updates every 5 years. WAMPO is in the final stages of updating our plan, called Metropolitan Transportation Plan 2050, or MTP 2050, which has a planning horizon of 25 years. This planning process began more than 2 years ago, and the plan is expected to be presented to our transportation policy body, which is our governing body, next week on May 13th. Once approved, MTP 2050 will guide the development and improvement of the transportation network over the next 25 years. Next slide. The plan sets priorities for transportation improvements, including safety, reliable travel times, managing environmental and economic impacts, creating a more equitable transportation system, and improving connectivity for all modes of travel. And then it also lists projects to potentially utilize federal funding should the funds be available. It includes 7 chapters and 14 appendices. It's a very long document. We do have a few printed copies. You're welcome to drop by our office at any time, which is conveniently located right there. So very close by, and we can have those there also available on our website. There's also an executive summary, which is a bit more condensed, and that is available in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. Next slide, please. The vision of MTP 2050 is to enhance connectivity in a way that supports equitable development of a safe, reliable, multimodal transportation network that enriches the quality of place in the WAMPO region. And this vision is served by the goals of making things safe and reliable, equitable and accessible, connected and multimodal, and practicing environmental and financial stewardship. Next slide, please. I will just give a brief overview of what this plan contains. The chapters include plan, purpose, and development, regional trends, which really gives an overview of the region, as well as existing conditions, and that is even more data of the current condition in the region. And then system management, system performance report, which documents the federal and regional performance measures. And then chapter 6 is our financial plan, and that demonstrates how the plan is fiscally constrained, meaning that it does not project more expenses than there is projected funding. And then chapter 7 is our project selection and list, and that lists all of those projects over the next 25 years. And there are quite a few. There's close to 150, I think, right around 140 of those. Then there are also quite a few appendices. I will not read those off to you, but those do have lots of information about the region and additional details about the plan as well. Next slide. This is just a quick map of those selected projects by project type. As you can see, there are quite a few different types of projects, and they really are all across the region. Next slide, please. That's kind of my very brief overview. As I said, the plan is available on our website at www.wampo.org/MTP2050. Also available at that QR code. And I am available if anyone has any questions or comments.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Jones? Hearing none, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Next on the agenda item would be administrative approval cases that we requested. Justin?
Good morning, committee members. Justin Constantino with the Planning Department. Talking about administrative approval case tracking, you may recall that during our April 10th MAPC Advanced Plans Committee meeting, commissioners requested a list of administrative approvals that have been reviewed by the Planning Department. Staff indicated that we would provide 2 years worth of administrative approval data for you at this meeting. Administrative approvals are intended to allow flexibility in property development without requiring the time and expense of approval through a public hearing process. The planning director, with the concurrence of the zoning administrator, has the authority to approve applications of administrative adjustments subject to the limitations set in the Unified Zoning Code. Staff gathered case tracking data on all administrative adjustment applications from 2023 to the present. We'll go to the next slide, please. The data has been broken down into 5 case types: BZA, or zoning adjustment, CON, adjustment to a conditional use, CUP, which is an adjustment to a community unit plan, PUD, which is an adjustment to a planned unit development, and ZON, which is an adjustment to a protective overlay. What you can see on the screen here is 3 years worth of data. The graph on the left shows 2023, and it indicates that we approved, I believe, 75 administrative adjustments in 2023. In addition to that, we had 1 of those that were denied, 3 that were upgraded, 1 was voided, 1 was withdrawn. You can see that it looks like the bottom is a little cut off there, but it looks like what you're seeing there is that the majority of those cases in 2023 were approved. As far as 2024, a bit of an uptick there. 98 overall cases were reviewed by staff. Again, the majority of those, a significant majority, were approved by the planning director and the zoning administrator. 2025, is where we currently are. Obviously, since we're only in April, those numbers are a little bit reduced. The chart to the right is administrative adjustments by case type. So you could see that the majority of those cases are zoning adjustments. That's highlighted in gray there. So for 2023, we had 45 of those. 2024, we had 56 of those. The next highest number of cases that we typically see are adjustments to community unit plans. So you can see there in 2023, we had 25 of those. And then again in 24, 35 of those. So again, just kind of a brief snapshot of the type of cases that we see, the number of cases that we see come in that are approved administratively. I know that the intent of, the intent of the question that was asked last time is how many of these cases are going through that the Planning Commission is ultimately not seeing, but these are the cases that are approved administratively by the Planning Director and Zoning Administrator. I'm available for any questions.
Is there any questions for Justin? Yeah, Commissioner Johnson?
That's a lot of data. I'd like to see it quickly if possible. Is that realistic?
I believe so, yes. Yes, I appreciate the request. We can certainly make that happen.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Justin, thanks for doing this. I know it's, the commissioners will have a little bit of reading here to do on this, so there might be some more questions down the line on this. Yes, Mr. Widow.
Yeah, if I could, I just wanted to add a little bit of context to this. I really appreciate this request because when an application comes in for an administrative adjustment, the applicant is obviously asking for something to be approved that would not normally go to the MAPC. And so that puts staff in a little bit of a difficult position because we're making a decision that if we approve something that maybe members of the community don't like, it bypasses the entire public process. And so that's why I try and be very conscientious about this. One thing that we do that we probably could beef up for our quarterly thing is to talk about what we do for public notice with these. There's no mail out that happens with these. It's just simply a sign that gets placed. And the sign is only out there, I think, for 7-10 days, something like that. 10 days. And so that is what we use to gauge whether or not there's public opposition or heartburn at all with these. And I personally see that the intent of administrative adjustments is not to approve anything that's controversial. If it's even controversial at all, I would prefer that it come to you. And so that is often why you'll see the denials in here is simply because it's something we think is perhaps so controversial or too controversial to be approved administratively. I'm also conscientious of the signs because if I really don't want to approve anything administratively that is above and beyond what the sign code would normally allow. And there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to CUPs and what can be approved. And so the one thing that sticks in my head is when I first got into the director position, there was a sign that was out on East Central, and it was for an ice cream and burger place. And the sign that they used was bigger than what would normally be allowed by the sign code. And I approved it because it wasn't that much bigger. And now I drive by it almost every week. And it's a reminder of how important these are, because you can't go back and undo a decision like this. Once you approve it, it's in there. So.
Well, I do have a question. You brought it up about public notifications and stuff. I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, that none of the adjustments on whether it's the BZA, the zoning conditional uses or any of that would require any prior public notification. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's limitations on what they can be for, and so what happens is that when they come in, there's the sign requirement, and then we see if anything comes in, any questions, comments. If we end up denying it from an administrative standpoint, then they can always come back with, except for certain sign things, most things can be submitted as an application for an amendment that would go through you all, or a zoning change. A lot of what you'll see in here, and I was just looking through the report just to refresh myself, you'll see a lot of setback adjustments. So it's people who need a little, a little bit of leeway one way or the other. You'll also see a number of signs that come in, and that's simply because the sign code, the way it's written, there's some process things that could be improved, and so a lot of it relies on administrative adjustments to get things approved.
Again, Justin and the rest of the planning department, I want to thank you guys for doing this. We asked about this. So now we have something to look at, to review. We may have some questions down the road here, but I would also like to see that the same information is passed along to the full body planning commission.
Certainly.
Are there any comments or questions from any of the other commissioners? Yes.
How do you go back? I'm going to go back to the notification, because when it comes before us, you just notify the people, the landowners around within a certain distance of the property. How do you handle it if you stick a sign out there and you start getting calls and they're not landowners?
Yeah, that can happen. And in that case, then we use that just as a gauge. We have to get together a staff team essentially and say, okay, is this to the point where it's controversial enough that we should send it and tell them no, so that the next step is they have to go to the MAPC. It just comes down to a judgment call.
Okay, but I mean, it doesn't mean that the applicant has to provide you with the list from the title company and stuff like that to prove who is and who isn't.
Yeah, no, that's correct. And generally, if we get 2 or 3 things, and there's not a certain number that we're looking at, right? It's always a judgment call. It can vary. But if we start to see that there's conversation on it, and if it's a substantial change, then yeah, we'll send it to MAPC, or at least tell them it's denied and they've got the option to apply for it.
Since I requested it, so I don't know what to do.
Well, and I would point out that it's the staff sitting here who pulled the information, so credit to them for putting it together and putting it in a format that's more easily understood.
Any additional questions or comments? Justin, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much.
Sure.
Our next agenda item is regarding the College Hill Neighborhood Plan. The recommended action on this is that the MAPC approve a resolution adopting the College Hill Plan as an element of the Wichita-Sedgwick County Comprehensive Plan. It's pretty thick. This is something that we just got. I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of discussion on this, but Justin, go ahead.
Good morning again, everybody. Justin Constantino with the Planning Department, here to discuss the College Hill Neighborhood Plan. Let's go to the next slide, please. Our discussion this morning will focus on the recommended action, as Chair Aldrich just mentioned. I will go briefly into what is a neighborhood plan. I'm sure you all are familiar, but a little refresher would probably help a little bit. Go into the background of College Hill, a little bit about the neighborhood itself, talk heavily about community engagement, which is a very significant part of the plan itself. I will go into the plan recommendations, kind of summarize those for you. I know Chair Aldrich mentioned that it was a thick document, so I will do my best to go through that and make sure that you're all comfortable with what is in the document itself. Talk a little bit about implementation, and then the approval process. Next slide, please. So the recommended action, let's go to the next slide, please, is to approve a resolution adopting the College Hill Neighborhood Plan as an element of the Wichita-Sedgwick County Comprehensive Plan. You'd also be recommending that the City Council approve an ordinance adopting the College Hill Neighborhood Plan as an element of the Comprehensive Plan, and then at the same time recommending that the County Commission approve a resolution adopting the College Hill Neighborhood Plan as an element of the Comprehensive Plan. Next slide, please. So what is a neighborhood plan? Next slide. I've mentioned it a couple times just on the previous slide, but really it's an amendment to the comprehensive plan that offers guidance and vision for specific neighborhoods or areas. It's a local planning document created by residents and local governments to guide development and improvements within a specific geographic area, in this case, the College Hill neighborhood. It outlines a vision for the neighborhood's future, addressing existing issues and needs, and provides recommendations for achieving a desired outcome. Next slide, please. A little bit of background. Next slide, please. So the College Hill neighborhood consists of 1 square mile. It's bounded by Hillside Street to the west, Central Avenue to the north, Oliver Street to the east, and Kellogg Avenue to the south. Douglas Avenue bisects the middle of the neighborhood. Next slide, please. College Hill is home to approximately 5,000 residents. It's located 2.5 miles east of the Arkansas River in downtown Central Business District. There are 2,300, a little over 2,300 households in the neighborhood with a median household income of just over $83,000. 70% of residents over the age of 25 have a bachelor's degree, and the median age of the neighborhood is 34 years old. Next slide, please. A little bit of background on the planning process. Back in March of 23, the city released a request for proposals. In August of 23, we reached an agreement with RDG Planning and Design. They are the consultant that has been assisting us through this process. And then in November of 23, the city council appointed 16 stakeholders to serve on the steering committee. Next slide, please. Community engagement, probably the most significant part of this plan. Let's go to the next slide, please. We kicked this off with a community event back in March of 24 at Grace Presbyterian Church. There was a significant amount of outreach involved in this community kickoff event. We mailed over 3,000 postcards to every individual address within the College Hill neighborhood. We also had yard signs posted and flyers were printed. Flyers were given out to local business owners. Staff kind of canvassed the area with yard signs placed appropriately. And then we also we also reached out to the steering committee members to assist with the placement of yard signs too. As a result of that, we had a very high number of attendees at the community kickoff event, over 150 sign-ins. I would say it was probably closer to 200 individuals that were in the room, stakeholders, residents, business owners, elected officials. We did have the event broken down into two kind of significant areas. One was a roundtable discussion. It was kind of an open house format, and then the roundtable discussions began right around 6:00 p.m. And then we also had board engagement comments where people that attended the meeting were able to kind of walk around and engage with staff members on individual topics. Next slide, please. The board engagement comments basically broke down each of the following categories based on strengths and challenges. We wanted to see what strengths and challenges there were in terms of land use and zoning, mobility and transportation, housing, parks, pools, and recreation. Basically, this was an exercise to get as much feedback as possible on each of these individual topics. Next slide, please. After everyone had a chance to walk around, we all sat down for a roundtable discussion. There was generally one person leading that roundtable discussion, typically a steering committee member with staff there in assistance. The main four questions that we asked at that roundtable was, what makes College Hill a great place to live, work, and play? What are College Hill's biggest challenges? To both today and in the future, and what would you like to see approved and changed? What is your big idea for the neighborhood, and what are the top 3 or 4 priorities to address in College Hill? Next slide, please. Following the meeting, we had an online public survey that was posted for about 2.5 months, and we launched that public survey in addition to a corresponding social pinpoint map. So folks that attended the meeting, folks that were not able to attend the meeting were able to log on, take this public survey, answer questions about the neighborhood, provide concerns about the neighborhood, and then also utilizing that social pinpoint map, identifying certain places in the neighborhood where they would like to see changes or improvements. Again, that survey date closed on June 3rd. A pretty large response, right around 530 total responses on that survey. Next slide, please. Continuing with the public survey, just to kind of give you a little peek at what it looked like, there were multiple questions on there. Basically, we provided multiple questions with the ability for survey takers to rate those statements on a scale from 1, which is strongly disagree, to 5, which is strongly agree. I provided a couple examples there. One example would be, as a pedestrian, I feel safe crossing major streets. Another example would be, lighting for streets and sidewalks is adequate. Stormwater infrastructure in the neighborhood is adequate. And again, folks, we're rating those on a scale of 1 to 5. Next slide, please. A lot of really good feedback was taken from that public survey. We did kind of, we asked people who are taking the survey where they are from. Are you a resident of College Hill? Do you shop in College Hill? Are you a business owner? Do you own your home? Are you a renter? And what we saw a lot was that there were a lot of common threads, but on the north side of Douglas and the south side of Douglas, there were different wants. There were different concerns. So I thought that was really interesting data to get. Another question that we asked, which was as part of the contract, was the neighborhood plan as well as a potential overlay for the neighborhood. We wanted to see what the appetite in the neighborhood was for a potential overlay. So we asked the question of which is the best, what best represents your opinion on a potential overlay district for parts of College Hill. And basically, I would like a strong zoning overlay. I would like to see a balance of preservation and new development, but I would still like to see an overlay. And then I do not support an overlay in College Hill at all. And the big takeaway there was that over 90% of survey takers wanted to see some form of an overlay in the College Hill neighborhood. Next slide, please. In addition to the community kickoff meeting and the public survey, we also wanted to engage specific focus groups. So we know that there's a lot of different stakeholders in the neighborhood. We held a community engagement meeting with local business owners, churches, and nonprofit organizations and schools, all as separate engagement meetings on June 6th of 2024. That was really interesting to see the type of people that showed up and offering their perspective as business owners and other members of the community. Next slide, please. The steering committee, meanwhile, had been active that whole time. They've been active and still currently are from December of 2023, about a month after they were appointed, up until this meeting. And over the course of that time, the planning department hosted 16 public steering committee meetings. So all of those meetings were open to the public. The role of a steering committee member, very important. They assist in the development of the plan goals, strategies, and actions. They help develop criteria for setting priorities. They assist with public events. So that big community open house, they were very, very helpful in keeping us organized and keeping us on point. And probably the most important thing is communicating the status of the planning process to stakeholders. These 16 and what ultimately became 15 individuals were responsible for kind of being a conduit between the planning process, staff, and what's going on in the community, providing updates to those individuals in the community. So they play a very important role. Next slide, please. Following that over a year-long process, we had a public open house on April 15th at Grace Presbyterian Church. So just a few weeks ago, again, we sent out over 3,000 postcards. We had over 150 attendees. Basically, the intent of this meeting was to review the draft plan. So at this point, we've gotten a ton of feedback. We were ready to put the draft plan together. That's what you see today. We presented that same plan to the individuals who attended that meeting. It was very well attended, and there was an opportunity for those individuals to talk to staff, talk to steering committee members, provide comment cards, and then at the same time, we also wanted to get additional input regarding a protective overlay for the neighborhood. So I've talked a little bit about the plan, talked a little bit about the overlay, but the focal point for this morning is specifically the College Hill neighborhood plan portion of the project. I just wanted to reiterate that. Next slide, please. We did have a second online public survey following the open house. We launched that survey on April 17th and it closed on April 30th. The survey response, not as overwhelming as the first survey go around. We only had 8 total responses, which I think is a sign that people were feeling quite comfortable with the plan. Most of the feedback that we received was very positive about that plan, the draft plan, and that information, as well as the first survey. All of those survey results are in your packet for this morning. Next slide, please. Plan recommendations, I'm going to get into the meat of the document itself. Next slide, please. So it is broken down into 5 chapters, basically an introduction, College Hill today. I've touched upon a lot of that stuff already. The consultant came into town early and did a lot of research, a lot of demographic data that I've shared with you today. Chapter 3 is community engagement. I've discussed that at length. Chapter 4, plan recommendations. That's what I'll go into now. And then 5, when all is said and done, if the plan is ultimately approved, what are the next steps? Next slide, please. So the plan itself was broken down into goals, strategies, and actions. And the main 6 goals that the steering committee and the neighborhood wanted to focus on was housing, preserving and maintaining College Hill's diverse housing types and historic aesthetic, mobility, safe, connected, accessible, and enjoyable walking, bicycling, and transit options throughout the neighborhood, land use design and development, ensuring sensitive, lasting, and pedestrian-oriented development in the neighborhood, neighborhood character, supporting College Hill's identity as a historic yet vibrant, hip, and eclectic neighborhood that provides a high quality of life for residents and a destination for local businesses, parks and public space, enhancing College Hill's parks and public spaces to nurture the physical and emotional well-being of all community members, and community cohesion, a safe, friendly, welcoming, and inclusive environment that inspires all who live, work, and play there to engage in community and build meaningful relationships. Next slide, please. Basically, the plan is broken down into each one of those goals. I'm not going to go into every single specific recommendation, but basically the way that the plan is laid out is it splits those goals up into individual chapters, starting with housing. As I mentioned before, the goal is to preserve and maintain the housing types and historic aesthetic. And within those goals are strategies. So the image that you're seeing on the right is the first strategy, and it breaks it down. The strategy itself is to improve homes in need of repairs, and it breaks that goal down into individual actions. So for example, the first action is organize all incentive rebate programs relevant to home maintenance on the city's Housing and Community Services website. So what the plan does is identifies a lead within a specific department. In that instance that I gave, that would be the Wichita Housing and Community Services Department with support from the Wichita Office of Community Services. So basically each goal or each action has a department assigned to it. And as part of the process, planning staff coordinated with those department directors on those tasks to make sure that they were comfortable with those. Let's go to the next slide, please. Mobility is another action or strategy, including improving the safety, ease, and convenience of walking in College Hill. So again, for example, one of the actions is to apply for funding and create a sidewalk maintenance and improvement plan for College Hill that would be assigned to the Public Works and Utilities Department. Supporting them would be the College Hill Neighborhood Association and the Planning Department. So again, really what we were doing was making sure that these goals were feasible, that they were attainable, and we were making sure that the department directors were aware of the desire of the neighborhood as we were kind of creating these goals and strategies. Next slide, please. One of the goals and strategies that came out of the mobility section of the plan was a Douglas Avenue 3-lane conversion through the College Hill neighborhood. It's currently 4 lanes. It would be a 4-lane to 3-lane conversion and adding bicycle lanes on each side of the street. That was a desire of the steering committee, and that was feedback that we had received throughout the process. This design specifically was laid out previously in the Douglas Design District Streetscape Plan, which is a several-year-old plan. So we wanted to build off of a previous plan and make sure that that was included in there in the mobility section. Next slide, please. Just to further discuss this one, basically a different part of Douglas Avenue. What you're seeing on the left is Rutan to Oliver. Again, this portion of Douglas Avenue would be 4 lanes to 3 lanes with 2 bike lanes. So I just wanted to go ahead and provide that visual. It was a significant part of the mobility section of the draft plan. I just wanted to go ahead and highlight those 2 sections specifically. Next slide, please. Land use design and development, this was a really important step, ensuring sensitive, lasting, and pedestrian-oriented development in College Hill. So think zoning, think future land use. For example, the strategy that's shown on the screen here is to ensure that new commercial, residential, and mixed-use development utilizes appropriate form, scale, and materials to complement the surrounding College Hill environment. So, one of the actions, for example, would be to review setback requirements and modify to ensure that walkable urban character is maintained in College Hill. That would fall on the planning department. So that is something that we would work with the neighborhood association and the steering committee on going forward to make sure that the strategies identified in the plan are carried out. Next slide, please. Here is the land use design and development existing land use map on the left. So this is what the existing land use is in the College Hill neighborhood based on our current zoning code. Future land use is on the right. Basically, what the steering committee did was go through and identify particular corridors, particular areas that that they think would need either a change or an update in terms of the land use. And a couple different use categories were created, including neighborhood commercial, there's mixed use office. Basically, the intent of this is to serve as a guide for future land use development in the neighborhood. I would note that the future land use map on the right would not supersede any kind of zoning zoning designation for the, it wouldn't supersede any of the zoning language in the Unified Zoning Code. It would simply serve as a guide for future development in the neighborhood. Next slide, please. Neighborhood character, support College Hill's identity as a historic yet vibrant, hip, and eclectic neighborhood. One of those items that I wanted to highlight for strategy 2 is maintaining and restoring historic brick streets over time. Those brick streets are essentially covered up due to maintenance. So one of the actions would be to remove concrete repair patches in brick streets and replace them with brick. So that would be a public works and utilities item. Next slide, please. Parks and public spaces, ensuring that College Hill Park and pool provide quality recreational opportunities and encourage utilization now and into the future. So a big focus on parks, making sure that College Hill Park is clean, safe, and welcoming to all users, and increasing recreational opportunities north of Douglas Avenue. That was an interesting concern because the park resides south of Douglas Avenue, so there was a goal to make sure that the whole neighborhood is involved. Next slide, please. Community cohesion, safe, friendly, welcoming environment. This has a lot to do with safety in the neighborhood, making sure that people are connecting, celebrating College Hill's history, leveraging the neighborhood association as a connecting resource. There is an existing neighborhood association, and the president is in attendance this morning. Fostering neighborhood communications, connections, and interactions. So really community cohesion, making sure that that there is life and vibrancy in the neighborhood. Next slide, please. Plan implementation. So next slide. The plan will serve as a reference point for stakeholders, staff, and elected and appointed officials. So if approved, in the meantime, immediately what would happen is the staff of the planning department would utilize the contents of the plan to help or assist with staff reports. They would provide you with information in the event that development was occurring in the College Hill neighborhood. This would serve as a guide on future development in the neighborhood. So it would be a successful collaboration between both staff as well as the neighborhood association, residents, local businesses, and community stakeholders. So ultimately, if there's any future development happening in the neighborhood, this would certainly assist with the desire of the neighborhood. Next slide, please. One of the things that we will be working on as the Advanced Plans Division and as part of the plan is an annual implementation work plan. So if the plan is ultimately approved, we would create a work plan that identifies tasks and activities that an organization plans to accomplish over the course of the year. I mentioned that earlier on in the plan, we were working with department directors to make sure that went into the plan was appropriate. Staff will ultimately follow up with individual departments on a regular basis to make sure that these items items are being worked through or at least looked at for the future, and typically involves specific timelines, resources, performance metrics to track progress. This will be valuable to both the city. I think it'll keep the plan staying fresh and relevant, and it will allow us to provide updates to the neighborhood on the strategies and actions that they've identified. Next slide, please. The first step would be to coordinate with department directors to identify those projects. We've done that within this plan, but then also double check and see how those projects are coming along. We would do an internal review of the work plan, and then following up with the steering committee and seeking approval from the neighborhood association. So we want to make sure that the communication is staying open between the city, the department directors, and the neighborhood to make sure that what they've identified is occurring. We will have a 2024 implementation progress report for individual neighborhoods. We're currently working on that now for the Midtown neighborhood, actually, which is based off of an older neighborhood plan. But we plan to do so going forward with the College Hill neighborhood plan and any other neighborhood plans. Next slide, please. The approval process, next slide. We are currently here at the Advanced Plans Committee meeting. As I mentioned before, you would be making a recommendation to the full MAPC on the plan itself. The next step would be to go to DAB 1 with this. We're planning on doing that in June, the full MAPC. So you will all be seeing this again, ideally in June. Making a recommendation to the City Council and the BOCC for final approval. We're looking at City Council approval in July. Next slide, please. Again, just to reiterate, the recommended action this morning is to approve a resolution adopting the College Hill Neighborhood Plan as an element of the comprehensive plan. And as I showed before on the previous slide, ultimately the City Council would be approving an ordinance and the County Commission would be approving a resolution adopting the neighborhood plan as an element of the comprehensive plan. Next slide, please. That sums up my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Yes, Commissioner Miles.
So I have a few questions. So I'm just so I understand. So I'm looking at page 42, which talks about, according to the Sedgwick County Assessor's Office, approximately 13% of homes in College Hill are in below average condition. But then I'm looking at the map on page 20, and that doesn't really coincide with what's on the map on page 20. So can you help me understand that?
Yes, getting there. One moment, please. Okay, so the map on page 20 has housing conditions. And then the previous page you mentioned, was that page 32?
Page 42.
42.
And I'm just not seeing that reflected on the map. It's way off from what the map is showing. So which one is correct?
If I could offer, it looks like what happened is that they've got 13%. I think that 13%, I wonder if maybe they've mislabeled the table on the bottom of page 20, or if they took the numbers from the Wichita column. Because if you look at that Wichita column, I think that adds up to almost 13%.
Yeah. Yeah, everything fair, poor, very poor, and unsound. If you look at the 11.4 beyond down, adds up to about 13% in the Wichita column.
So the map is correct and the 13% is not?
I would suspect that that's the case, but I think congratulations to you, because we've had all the people at the open house and other folks who have seen this and not picked up on that. So thanks for identifying that.
Yeah, great catch.
So the other questions that I have, so I'm seeing that on page 44, they're looking at implementing regulations that limit short-term rentals in College Hill. And then they're encouraging the city of Wichita and Sedgwick County, state of Kansas, to tax short-term rentals at a commercial rate. So if these are implemented in College Hill, do we expect that other neighborhood plans will follow suit with this, or will this be specific to College Hill? Because it's hard for me to imagine that we're going to implement regulations regarding short-term rentals just to College Hill. That doesn't seem quite fair, and life is not fair. So just curious.
Yeah, I think for the sake of this plan, this would be specifically for College Hill. If there is a desire for other neighborhoods to potentially reduce short-term rentals or find a way to implement regulations that limit them, I do think that those specific neighborhoods could potentially follow suit when they are updating their neighborhood plans. So, yeah, it would be specifically for College Hill in this case.
And then, sorry, last question. So I also noticed that in this plan that when it talks about implementation, and I've lost my sheet, but when it talks about implementation, we talk about the city investing funds in implementation, which I don't always see in neighborhood plans. Is that, so I'm specifically looking at the Central Northeast Area Plan, which I happen to be engaged with. It's 20 years old. But there's nothing in that particular plan about the city investing any type of funds to make that plan happen. So is that something that's new with our neighborhood plans? Or is it that, again, just specific to College Hill?
It's something that we wanted to specifically highlight in College Hill, and likely going forward is basically making sure that these plans, or what is identified in these plans as strategies and actions, is actually taking place. So I think the planning department will end up taking a significant role in reaching out to different departments and kind of reminding them that this plan is here and that there's certain strategies and actions that have been identified in the plan, and to ask what the status is of those. And that's where the annual implementation report comes in, is to basically provide an update on what the status is, whether it's in progress, whether it's not happened yet, basically identifying and giving us, providing a nice clean snapshot to the public, but then at the same time, all of you, about where we are with these neighborhood plans. So I do think it is something very specific that we wanted to highlight with the College Hill neighborhood plan, but I anticipate us utilizing that format going forward for other neighborhoods as well.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that in fact happens with other neighborhood plans, because I've heard, as I sit on and participate in neighborhood planning, that this is a plan. We don't necessarily know that any of it will happen. And again, as I look at the Central Northeast Area Plan, which is 20 years old, and nothing in that plan has happened in 20 years, I want to know that we're not just investing in College Hill, that we're investing in the other neighborhoods around in our community, because I mean, in this particular instance, I see much disinvestment for many years in the north end and the south end. And so I just want to make sure that they get a fair shake in what's going on. And if we're going to really focus on implementing College Hill's neighborhood plan, that we do the others the same.
Yeah, I think it's a great question and a great point. And I think it's something that the planning department has really honed in on over the last year or so, is making sure that the plans don't just sit on a shelf and that the actions are taken appropriately, or at the very least monitoring those and providing a nice clean document where we can update those neighborhoods as well as all of you, and make those strategies and actions and updates publicly available. So I think that's a great point.
Justin, one of my concerns is that the funding on this. I mean, this isn't going to be cheap by any means. So when you're looking at doing any type of infrastructure, sidewalks, street widening, or any of that, would that fall back? Are there on the property owners as far as implementation of any specials? Or are they looking for somebody else to pay for all their home improvements and street improvements and everything else?
I think in most cases, and Scott, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but really it would come down to the CIP process, the annual CIP process, and ultimately would fall on the planning department to reach out to those individual departments prior to that process starting, which we plan to do on an annual basis, and saying, okay, we are in the process of updating our annual implementation report. Where are we with these projects? This is something that was identified by this specific neighborhood. are you considering funding for this particular project? Basically, a way of reminding them that these projects exist, but at the same time, making sure that we're providing significant updates to the neighborhood themselves.
Scott?
Sure. I would just add that the nature between neighborhood plans and funding and infrastructure and programs has always been kind of a challenging one and a complex one. As you all know, neighborhood plans never program any funding. They never guarantee any certainty of any programs. And so I think this plan does, hopefully does a good job of explicitly saying, look, this plan doesn't guarantee any funding, but rather it's just an input that can be used for the CIP process. Now, how things get funded, I think it's going to be an interesting question to see, because we know that in the past, College Hill has used, they've done a special improvement district for like the College Hill pool to pay for a portion of that. So that is an option in College Hill, is that they may choose to do that. The other option is that we may have things that we've included in the plan that the community wanted that maybe do not shake out as a priority when it comes to the CIP, and maybe they don't get implemented. But the hope is that hopefully we're on target with where the community wants to be, and if we are, then it will be up to the community to get engaged in the process when the CIP and the budget are developed, and see how that shakes out citywide, and also to look for other opportunities like maybe the special improvement district or maybe some other funding that we're not aware of right now.
Well, when they're talking about in the report that approximately 13% of our homes are need of repair, you know, I don't want to see the general public be funding somebody's private improvements. If they want to put a special fee for the College Hill neighborhood together, then let them do that. I just want to make sure that it's not the general public that's funding this. When you look at the 6 bullet points that you have, you've touched very little on the business aspect of it, whether there's going to be any type of manufacturing, any type of various commercials and stuff. And I think if you're going to have a vibrant neighborhood, and instead of just the feel-good portions of it, you also have to have a vibrant business district and a commercial district. And how does this plan vary, or does it vary that much between the College Hill and the Delano district, for example? Are they pretty much the same in line on that, or?
I think you see a lot of common themes or common threads, certainly with the desire of both neighborhoods to want to, again, promote their business district, but also promote safety and walkability. I think safety was a big concern that came out of this plan, safety for both pedestrians, cyclists. So there were several themes that came out in the Delano neighborhood plan back in 2019 that were also reiterated for the College Hill neighborhood too. But you do see a lot of similarities, certainly.
Well, another thing too is that I know we just got this, we need to review it. There is an opportunity before this body recommending approval moving it forward. There is room on the May 22nd, I believe it is. Now you're looking at having on the MAPC or a separate advanced plans if we elect to sit down and have discussions strictly on this on May 22nd.
Sure. The current timeline has this item going to the MAPC on June 12th. As you mentioned, May 22nd could be a great opportunity for a special meeting, perhaps for the Advanced Plans Committee, again, to take a look at this plan, give you some additional time to review the text in greater detail, and that would give us an opportunity to come back on May 22nd, which is 2 weeks from now, Thursday, 2 weeks from now, I believe, to review this plan again in greater detail. I'd be happy to provide any specifics on that.
Be under the umbrella of the advanced plans and not the full body.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes. How many square miles do we have in Wichita?
I want to say
Apparently not enough.
it was like 140, but that's a recollection from a number of years ago. So somewhere in that ballpark.
And how many neighborhood plans do we have?
The number of neighborhood plans, I think it's somewhere in the ballpark of 15.
Yep, that sounds accurate, yep.
This is a very little neighborhood, right? Very small.
We have some that are in smaller areas, like we have a hilltop plan, for instance. That's a pretty small geography.
Yeah, there's Midtown, South Central, Delano, Commissioner Miles.
Northeast.
My point was that this is a lot of work for a small area.
Certainly,
Yeah, you did a great job,
thank you.
but I don't know if it's justified compared to the overall city.
Before Justin was here, one of the reasons why this plan came about is, and you've seen it, you've had a front row seat, which is the tension between the growth of businesses in the area and what they feel that they need to be supported, and also then the residents in the area. And so the hope is through this planning process to get everyone around the table and hopefully have some of the discussions and kind of work through some of the scenarios so that it will help to avoid some of the more contentious items that might come up in the future. And one of the main ways of doing that is through a future land use guide that's more dialed in on the neighborhood as opposed to relying just on what's in the comprehensive plan.
Commissioner Warren?
How is this different from a homeowners association? And ultimately where I'm going with this is this plan is going to have an impact on homeowners coming into the area. And are they going to get a copy of this when they write a contract? Is this something that will be because I would hate to put a set of rules on people. They buy a house and then when they want to make a change, say, well, nobody told me that I'm subject to a neighborhood plan. So what kind of effect does this have on enforcement?
So when we first kicked off this process, the contract called for both a neighborhood plan and a zoning overlay. What you're seeing this morning is specifically the neighborhood plan, and what the point of the document or the point of the plan is to serve as a guiding document for all of you, MAPC members, and then ultimately for both residents and people who are potentially developing in the neighborhood. So the plan will serve as a guiding document that staff will utilize to put into staff reports, and its intent is to help you all make a decision on what is appropriate for the neighborhood. It's really a nice tool in the toolkit because what the contents of the plan came specifically from the neighborhood itself. So if there's any question about what the neighborhood desires or what they want to see in their future, it's in the document and you all can use that. It's not a prescribed, required list of things that need to happen. I think the steering committee wanted to focus specifically on larger goals that could be applicable to future development in the neighborhood. So the overlay, which is the second component of this, which you will likely see at a later date, would likely have more of a regulatory format in terms of what you can and can't do in terms of certain land uses or certain development in the neighborhood. So really what this plan is, the intent is to serve as a guiding document. So it'll be publicly available online to anybody that wants to develop or purchase a home in the neighborhood, but ultimately the responsibility of what happens will fall upon the Planning Commission.
I would make a motion, we defer a vote on this until May 22nd.
Okay, before we make the motion there, you have another question?
Well, I want to make sure that we keep in mind that people that are moving into the area need to be notified beforehand. And that's not a question you normally ask. You buy a house, you don't think, oh, I need to check out and see what the neighborhood plan is. You don't do that.
That's an excellent point. Commissioner McKay? You have a question?
Well, I have a response, not a question.
Okay.
I think that in most real estate transactions in an area like this, they don't use it as a guideline, they just refer that there is a plan. Like the Northeast one, they did that a number of years ago simply because of, they refer to that there is a plan there, and then I don't think you can twist a guy's arm and say, hey, you got to go look at the thing and make a difference. So if they really want to know, they'll do it.
Yeah, but I think we have the responsibility to make sure that they know that there is a plan out there. We don't have to give them the plan. We can just say, hey, just so you're aware, if you're buying this area, there is a neighborhood plan in place that could affect you. And
how would that notification be implemented or required, Scott?
Well, there's a couple things that come to mind. The first is that as Justin has distinguished, there's the neighborhood plan, which is a guide, and then there's the overlay district, which is regulations. The overlay district would show up, I believe, during a purchase process because it would be part of the zoning, and so it would be listed in the zoning information for the property. But I don't know that that gets to Commissioner Warren's question, which is really about the plan. And what I would offer there is perhaps Justin and the Advanced Plans team could reach out to the Realtors Association and have a conversation with them about what kind of information do they share when people are listing a property or when it comes to the purchase. And just learn, we can learn a little bit more about that process and come back to you with some more feedback and maybe some ideas that they might have.
The plan is just strictly a process or a recommendation. It shouldn't have any teeth whatsoever.
Yeah, that's correct. The plan is just a guide. It does not have any regulatory impact. It would be the overlay district, which would be a change to the zoning code, which would, and I believe that the zoning is part of the documentation that you receive when you purchase a home.
I definitely would like to go in more detail on this besides just skipping over it. And Commissioner Johnson does have a motion on the floor. Is there a second to move this to a special meeting for advanced plans on May 22nd at 10 a.m.?
I had seconded it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. If there's no
Question.
additional comments?
We have a question.
Yes, sir.
Are we going to distribute this to the rest of the planning commissioners?
We would do that as part of a regular item, but I can see that it would probably make a lot of sense to distribute it ahead of time as opposed to with the agenda. Would you like to have us do that?
Yeah,
Well, the only reason why I'm
Justin
saying
to do
that is because here's a thick, inch thick full of stuff that's been working on the table for 3 to 5 years. And in 15 minutes, we're supposed to decide whether or not it should go forward or not forward. And it's number one, it's not fair to this group to try to do it because we'll dig into it more so. So the meeting on the 22nd will probably be a good idea. But the fact is that you got other commissioners that, that don't know. You can give it to them, and they may or may not read it or even glance at it. But, there's been a couple questions here today about using the CIP, and I know within the CIP, they have an area where they'll go out and pave a street or do something for the neighborhood because of a number of different reasons. So, but the biggest thing I think is the fact that there's the two things, the document and the overlay. Because the overlay really carries a whole lot more, what do you want to call it, meat than this document here does. So that's what I think the Planning Commission needs to know as much as anything about the overlay. If the overlay's there, what it means to the theory. I think that if he was going to get any organization to help you as far as notification to buyers, would be the title companies. Because I doubt very seriously if there's 5% of the real estate people would take the time and the effort to know whether it is or isn't, unless they're going to use it as a promotional thing. Say, well, this is in the nice area, the College Hill area, or blah, 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 this, that, and everything else. So,
Is there any way you can put it as a title restriction?
So the question was whether we could place it as a title restriction. I don't know. I think we'd have to deliberate on that one as staff. I also wonder too, with the fluidity of neighborhood plans, also the fact that sometimes they get out of date and we don't have a good history of keeping them up to date. I guess I would kind of worry that maybe something would show up in the title work and it'd be a 20-year-old plan that wasn't really relevant anymore, and I just would be afraid it would worry. Yeah. Okay. Well, we can do some more discussion about that one.
Okay.
a deed restriction is pretty stiff.
Yeah.
Notification is all, just a very simple deal that this is part of the Delano Township. They had that problem with Delano. they first started, it was so strict, nobody could do anything in it. And they had to go around and change it around. When they changed people, it was on the committee, and that'll make a difference. Is the people that are here on this committee today may not be here 5 years from now. It changes the whole complexion of the report.
But what we can do is we can reach out to the title companies as well. So we'll go ahead and add that to the list.
Scott, ideally, how often should a neighborhood plan be updated?
Well, that's a great question. I think ideally, if resources were no issue, I think you'd want to touch it at least once every 5 years, at least. But it may be sooner than that, depending on the dynamics of the neighborhood, if they're seeing a lot of development or just a lot of changes taking place.
So how do we determine when then, if we don't have a regular cycle of when we create neighborhood plans, how do we decide who gets to create a neighborhood plan when, and how is that facilitated? Because again, as I look at Central Northeast Area Plan, it's 20 years old. An area that's highly underinvested in for many years. The population in that neighborhood plan has declined from 39,000 to 15,000 in 20 years. And so, when do we address that plan?
It really does come down to priorities. Given our staffing and our structure here, we look for additional resources in order to undertake neighborhood plans. And so College Hill has been a learning opportunity for us, but generally what we look for is some funding to be programmed in the budget process. And then we use that funding to hire a consultant that will help us out.
So I would recommend that we create a plan for creating neighborhood plans or updating neighborhood plans on a regular basis, because I think it's very inequitable that, we might do one for College Hill every 5 or 10 years, but we might do one for the Central Northeast area every 20 years, or we might do one for Hilltop every 20 years because College Hill happens to be a wealthier area.
Okay, that's actually a conversation for another topic. We've got a lot on the agenda right now. So I am, and we also got a vote pending. I'm going to call the vote. All in support of moving this to a special May 22nd, 10 a.m. Signify and say aye.
Aye.
All in what I want to say here.
Opposed.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is going to be the parking and unified zoning code. I think, yes, item number 6. Justin?
Good morning again. Just want to give you a brief update on parking and unified zoning code update. Not a lot of changes since the last meeting in April. As you all are aware, we're currently undergoing a process to review and align our parking requirements with community goals that will focus on a potential update to the unified zoning code and comprehensive plan. We started this process back in April of 2024. We solicited proposals from qualified companies, and in November of 24, the city entered into an agreement with the chosen consultant, Camiros. The project kickoff meeting occurred between the city and Camiros earlier this year. We are working with Camiros in terms of providing data and making sure that they are ready to go when we get a steering committee in place for this item. So that's currently the holdup at the moment. We're working on the formation of a steering committee for this item. Once that is in place, I think we will have a lot more dialogue with Camiros regarding the process and moving it forward. So that's a brief update on parking in UZC. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for Justin? Seeing none. Justin, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Recommendation action, did we just receive and file? The next agenda item would be the comprehensive plan update. Justin, this is also you. Given the recommendation is receive and file on this one.
Yep, exactly. Receive and file on a comprehensive plan update. You may recall that we started an RFP process for this back in October of 24. The goal was to find qualified consultants to assist the department with producing amendments to the existing community investments plan. The updates specifically would focus on the locational guidelines, the 2035 future growth concept map, and the 2030 35 urban growth areas. So we specifically wanted to highlight those particular areas in the comprehensive plan. We finalized an agreement with Professional Engineering Consultants, or PEC, towards the tail end of last year. We have since met with them and have provided them with information. They are in the process. I just touched base with the consultant the other day. They're in the process of gathering whatever data they can about those specific areas in the comprehensive plan, but we'll be reaching out to our staff shortly for additional information that may assist them. And we are still working on getting together that steering and technical advisory committees for this plan. So again, similar to parking, once we get that steering committee in place, we will be able to move forward.
Any questions for Justin? Mr. Bueno?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just a process question. And so for Sam and Abby, I believe Mr. Warren, I don't believe many people heard it, but Mr. Warren made a motion to receive and file one of the items. I'm curious, for the items that are receive and file on the agenda, do they need a motion and action from the group, or can they proceed without taking a motion and votes? And I'm sorry, I should have investigated this beforehand, but it just kind of brought the issue up to a head.
A good time too.
Oh, exit stage right.
Since the board is not taking any action, a vote is not required, but best practices would probably to just notate it. The motion was made and that it is what the board is going to do.
Okay, I guess, Mr. Warren, I think you have either option if you want to leave it there or if you want to withdraw it from the previous item. Okay. Okay, so Mr. Warren withdrew his motion then for the previous item.
So the chair just declares it, receive and file, and go ahead.
I believe so.
Who's the vice chair?
I thought you were the vice chair.
I move that we just go ahead and receive and file.
Thanks, Joe. So I believe the next item on the agenda is the MAPD update report. Mr. Vice Chairperson, are you comfortable with us proceeding with that item?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, in the interest of time, I'll try and just go through that real quick. So we've got the handout as always for you. And so on page 2, you'll see that we've got the listing of the cases, the non-subdivision cases. If it seems like it's been busy to y'all, then just know that it really has been. You'll see on the bar chart there that we're at 108 cases as of May. But where I think it's interesting is in the graph, the table, I'm sorry, you'll see that our average number of cases, non-subdivision items that are brought to you at MAPC so far this year have been 11 items per MAPC case. And if you look on page 3, you'll see the graph. And some of those meetings have been very, very high. I think somewhere 17 and 16 cases. So we had a little bit of a lull with the 3rd and 4th meeting, but since then we've been on a roll with quite a few cases. So I'm hoping we've got a little bit of relief coming, I think, because we got a little bit lower level for meeting number 10, but I'm hoping we get a little bit more of a lull too for staff. So. Subdivision cases on page 4, that's been very interesting. We were very, very busy the last few years. We were very busy at the beginning of the year, and now it seems to have dropped off quite a bit. And so it'll be interesting. I just talked with one of the consultant companies yesterday, or no, it was on Tuesday, and they have also seen a drop off when it comes to platting cases. So, but they pointed out it hasn't been very long, so we'll see. They expect something could come in, business could pick up in the next couple weeks here. We'll see. So those are pages 4 and 5. On page 6 is our table that just shows you overall where we've been through the year. And all the ones that are highlighted in yellow are above what's a comfortable level for our current plans division staff. Page 7 is our staffing tables, and we are currently hiring for the associate planner position, although the applicant for that one has accepted the position, and we expect them to start the end of this month. So that will update our table for next time. And then we have a part-time combination inspector that we continue to advertise. And then we have one position that's frozen right now. In terms of web page hits, congratulations to the advanced plans team here because they did have a project that cracked the top 5, and that was the College Hill plan. So, but our web traffic is pretty consistent. This is the first time we've been doing this is this year, and you can see we're at about 5,000 hits per month, which is pretty interesting. Short-term rentals, we continue to work on processing applications that come in. There are a number of cases, violations that have gone to the courts, and JR is participating in those, representing the planning department. And so, so the people have their day in court and their opportunity to argue. I believe the ones that have gone to the court have been found in the city's favor, but not much to expand on there. Short-term rentals in the county. For that one, we no updates on that one. Need to, I guess the update is I need to work with the county manager's office on, I believe they want to get a staff meeting put together to like a workshop essentially for the BOCC. Solar energy conversion systems, still working through that with the city of Wichita on what updates they would like to adopt. And so need to continue that conversations. Public notifications for the city, that's one that we need to start up again. The city council's indicated a preference for it to go to renters as well as to the property owners. Development signs in the county, that's also one that will be at the BOCC relatively soon.
June.
So in June, there we go. Event centers in the county, that's one that's on hold until June for this committee. College Hill neighborhood plan, you got an update on that one. And then parking and zoning, got an update on that one. Daycares and zoning, that was at the city council meeting Tuesday, and they approved that one. So the next step is going to be to take it to the BOCC.
Thank you, Scott. I do have a quick question going back to the subdivision cases. I'm assuming that is from January to May, the comparison. For example, so far this year, we've had 26 subdivision cases. Last year was 69 and 75. So that's only to May, correct?
That's correct. And we do it by calendar year. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any questions for the commission? Commissioner Johnson is left, or you just absent for right now? Okay, if there's no additional comments for Scott, appreciate that. We will go to the public comment section. We do have somebody here. I don't know if you had anything to say that you want to address the commission. If so, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address.
Name is Jack Patton, address 337 South Rattan, Wichita, Kansas. My particular interest is in the College Hill overlay. It seems to be quite a bit of confusion. I understand that because it did take us a year to kind of come up to these aspects. No, the long story on whether it's an HOA or not is no. That's what I tell the folks. Basically, we're looking to kind of keep things moving smoothly as far as businesses versus the neighborhood. Right now, it's kind of wild, wild west. When somebody comes up here, that we do not have definite defined lines and processes. Part of the neighborhood association project is we have defined spaces. Whatever goes on within that space for commercial development, for retail, for businesses and everything, as long as you're in this particular spot that's designated for commercial or businesses, fine, do what you want. We're just focused on preventing the degradation of the neighborhood, because the neighborhood is prime. The neighborhood is what draws businesses. The marketing of just having the name College Hill or being in College Hill is very valuable to business, and we understand that. And we want to designate areas for that and processes for that when it's within that area, fine. When it's in the neighborhood area, we deal with neighborhood businesses. As far as being confused, every realtor that comes out and I've bought a number of homes in Wichita. If there's an overlay or if there's a neighborhood associate or if there's anything, that's one of the first things the realtor comes up and tells you. They are obligated by law to let you know of any issues. As far as telling folks what to do, you want to put one of those $10,000 Japanese toilets to light up and everything, let me know. I'll pay $5 to come look at it. We just want to kind of keep the neighborhood, and not have somebody come in and put up a container house or put a slab in there and put up a mobile home or something like that. So,
Okay, sir, I appreciate it. Your time is up.
okay.
Thank you for your comments. Next agenda item is other business. I do want to bring up something. Apparently, the city council, this is regarding the urban growth area portion of the comprehensive plan. I received an email from Justin on this. There's concern with the city and the county, I guess. They got particular questions as far as future development along 55th Street South and Ridge Road, regarding any type of brownfield areas and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is just turn this over real quick to Justin so you can give us a little bit more of a clarification on that.
Sure. Thanks for bringing this up. I appreciate that. Basically, just I believe on May 6th, Scott presented a agenda item to the City Council regarding potentially amending the urban growth area as an amendment of the comprehensive plan. There's been questions raised regarding the future development pattern of the area near 55th Street and Ridge Road. So the area around that area it's in unincorporated Sedgwick County. It's within the city of Wichita's urban growth area. The city council initiated the process to amend the comprehensive plan at their meeting on May 6th. As part of that initiation process and an amendment to the comprehensive plan, it would ultimately go through the advanced plans committee for recommendation and then back through the MAPC to potentially amend the urban growth area for the city of Wichita. So we do have that meeting scheduled, that special meeting scheduled for May 22nd to review the comprehensive plan. And as Chair Aldrich has mentioned, I think that would be a great opportunity to bring this particular agenda item as well for that May 22nd meeting.
Okay, thank you. Scott, do you have anything you want to add to that, or, okay? I've got a quick question for legal, and this is basically going back to the College Hill plan. The comment was made, as far as from Commissioner Warren about some type of notification for future home buyers or residents in there. Is there anything that legal may or may not want to recommend at some point on this discussion, or would you guys just rather stay out of it at this point?
Legal would prefer to not discuss our legal opinions in an open forum, and we can look into it and provide you our opinion on it, but in a different format.
That's what I was after. I appreciate it very much. Is there any additional concerns, comments, questions? If not, our next meeting will be June 12th, as far as our regular meeting, at 10 a.m. And we are going to be getting notification out regarding the May 22nd, 10 a.m. advanced plans meeting. Seeing nothing else, I will take, we're adjourned. I don't think I need a motion for that. Whatever happened to the other deal when I was busy?
All this crazy business took place.